What's up everybody, my name is Kalen, I am the Keykeeper and I am back with another episode of Being at Pure Keys Lake. Tonight we have a more serene mood. I do apologize for the inconveniences the king in my neighborhood has caused as a listening experience in my last videos. So I also just wanted to add to some of the thoughts that we have been gaining from the compilation of different esoteric ciphers, different schemes, trying to put all of these things together, right? It's very Humpty Dumpty, and yeah, I think I want to clarify, for example, what I mean by through the galactic center, right? Like my mom's name is Ursula, and she is, anti-North Pole in just the concentration of where her planetary energies are, right? So anyway, I've explained my love of Ariel, how I swam with a cutout from a magazine that had the name Huisgenoot, which, related my questioning of myself to having connection to a mermaid spirit and it finding a voice through my personal songbird supreme, Mariah Carey, and also just the idea of my own Punarvasu process and Mula process and the beauty and beast within myself, as Glenakti's recent Punarvasu video really helped me to see why I related to stories like that, like Shirik, like why I related to Princess Donkey's Skin and King Midas, and even the fact that I love Donkey from Shrek, which we're going to talk about later. The various other fairy tales that I loved, perhaps because I was infected by a mermaid spirit, and it reinforced that you are deformed and you are ugly. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did Frollo. But yeah, I loved Quasimodo, and in my tower moment of seeing myself being in this sanctuary that I've carved for myself for the past couple of years away from this world, in which I thought I was just trying to really, looking back on it now, build myself a cathedral, build myself a mental palace, a palace for all my lunacy, perhaps my nakshatras, my fallen star ideations, my Asterians, my Olympians, my heroes and gods. I was trying to fit it all in my brain, right? And it all kind of coalesced with when I went to university. And how it kind of broke me out of my, I almost want to say my MK Ultra butterfly programming that I was under from just being a child of certain abuses, mixing with having also a lot of love and a lot of spiritual knowledge and riches and wealth around me, very punarvasu. Like I had the aunt with the mansion who was tutoring me in the refinements of the world. The same aunt who I mentioned took me to Mind Power at the waterfront in Cape Town, and where I felt very swept up, and I felt all these enchantments, and I felt very wrong about certain things in my body. But yeah, as I learned in mastering the zodiac, my Libra scaled moon, it just like I was growing up to be the human design reflector, and at this point I have the personality to be emotionally projective thereof as well. So yeah, I guess I just kind of like ran into my own karma and everything that I said and spelled over myself and loved and idolized and invited in and aspired towards, the genius, the genie, the indwelling spirits, the like all of these chimeric notions that really center around just me literally taking a bath with a picture of a mermaid Ariel because I needed something to just like bring the security blanket of what that movie gave me, because when I watched it at a aunt who stayed in Grabo, and she had this house that looked like it was kind of like built out of like the ground was kind of like deeper laid in towards the bottoms, and then like her like the pathway that led up to like her porch, um that porch went like in a balcony that circled the second floor, and that whole step down was like, it looked like an empty pool. Like I always thought, like, why don't you like build a pool here or something like that. But like it was this like towering coming out of the earth type of built house, right? And I watched The Little Mermaid there, and there was the connection that my mom's name was Ursula. And just that at that point already I was between family members, and I had that split of good mom, bad mom, the dual mothership of what Sam Vaknin spoke about. When you are a golden child one moment, and then telling the truth or doing whatever you were praised for suddenly gets you in trouble, and you are just like gaslit as to the reason why. But you know the reason why. It's because your honesty made them look bad. And it's like they were cast in the beast form of Punarvasu, and it's like you cursed them, right? My family always really, it's like they told me outright that this one time, right, my mom sat here outside with me, like right here where I'm now. And there was a guy, and his name was Blessing, and he was a friend of my uncle's, and he basically told us why he was still here in the country, because he's not from South Africa. He is from Zimbabwe, I believe, if I remember correctly. And he told us that part of his calling was to live up to his name, because he has a gift that he always either tried to shut down or not believe in like it was coincidence and something like that. And so this very spiritual guy, right? Notwithstanding the fact that he drinks, he didn't get intoxicated and trashy the way my uncle does, but he drank that night. And he looked at me and he just asked me, why am I doing this to myself? Because he can see I have a light that is so bright, but I'm trying to cover it up with a heart cut full of scars and shitted. Just, he gave me this very this very visceral, in his, I wouldn't say broken language, like he could speak English quite well, but obviously, you know, there was the accent and grammar that, okay, I'm needing to just process it like that. So like it's very hard for me to kind of like think right now that in terms of like how he exactly phrased things, because I think what my mind kind of did was edit it to sound just more poetic, and that's just what my mind does, guys. It is what it is. Like I said, selective memory disorder, right? It, like, I will probably have a different moment where like I will remember Blessing's word exactly. Like if he stood in front of me now, I will be like, remember when you told me this and that? Like, I don't know what it is. It's just like it's not always there for me to have the, just like all the files open, right? But I also do know that I have the potential. I have everything that he told me I have, right? But he sat here and he looked at my mom and he asked her, do you know what you did to your son? Do you know how much your son loves you? Do you know why he is sitting here right now? And still, you know, like it felt to me like it was just something that she reveled in from this, like, I don't know what type of perspective. Like it sickened me actually, because I actually asked her at one point, like, can you please leave us alone? Because I don't feel like you are meant to hear what he has to tell me, and I don't feel comfortable with you here. And I think at that time he went to like take a leak, but yeah, I basically, like, I lashed out because she just sat here and absorbed the recognition of her prodigious progeny, and that she is being recognized like for working herself to the bone to support me, because I don't work and I dropped out of college and all these things. This guy was truly, in my opinion, a psychic. And he outright told me, when the literal thought came up, like, you shitting me, like someone's talking shit about me, like, to you and stuff like that. Because I've seen him in passing. I've never spoken to him, right? So as soon as I had that thought, he literally told me, me and Jackie, my uncle now, we do this. He showed me the beer bottle. We drink together. We talk about our connection. And he went on to tell me how part of his purpose was feeling guided to actually help my uncle get on the right track. And because he's just been very regardless. Anyway, the point being, he assured me as soon as that thought came up to me that it's not because he's been fed information. He is looking at my whatever it is that psychics tell you they see, if they are the real deal, that is, so to say, and if you believe in it as well. My point is, I still had to get the best out of what God, source, and what everything I'm trying to have be the meaning and reason and the essence that I sublimate through every reflection of energy that just comes my way and recognizes me and allows me to recognize myself as alive and sentient, and like I'm not just this brain in a bubble, or it's like I don't know who's an NPC, or like where's my thoughts coming from, am I in the matrix, you know what I mean? So that was a very opening up experience for me, because I just, like, I straight out told my mom that, and I never could tell her those words before. You know, I've always had passive aggressiveness. I've always just didn't like how she triangulated me, or when she felt disempowered by my dad, and what I then had to do to kind of like, for example, it would be something as simple as asking for money for something that I need. Then I ask her because obviously she's my parent, and I'm more comfortable asking her because of the situation with my dad, always making me literally have to jump through hoops to explain how every cent is going to be spent, and just so that he can have a, like, this place of authority from which he can now project all his distrust towards me, like every part of his shadow that he just didn't want to like recognize, he projected it onto me. Because my dad had a father that he literally told me the only thing his dad only did for him that he could recognize as an act of kindness that wasn't duty, his dad covered his brow when it rained randomly out of nowhere when he was young. That's the only thing. Otherwise, his dad, he knows his dad had beaten him, he knows his dad criticized him, he knows his dad drank and gambled and was not home a lot and had his friends in his choir or the klopse or the dart club or the domino club, or his dad was always on a tour or whatever. Like, that was his dad. And his mom was the lady who stayed home, looked after the kids, charred, yeah, like doing housework and stuff for people. And so when they were growing up and they were still young kids and my grandmother would still be able to work, that's when she obviously left them home alone a lot. And So I can just picture all of these apartheid era traumas for them, and they are this generation of people of like, no, we made it out of the struggle, and like they have that chip on their shoulder, right? And I get it, but like, did you heal though? Did you know what I mean? Like, that's just, I think, my more Gen Z way of thinking. But but yeah, like that was my parents, at the very least, like my dad. That was his upbringing, right? And so when he got a wife, he wanted to turn his wife into a mastery play of what his dad did to his mom, so that he could like psychologically alchemize his own individuation, separation in the image and likeness of his father, and the role model that he internalized through that dual mothership, fathership split of himself. Um, and now having his blossoming individuality, however stunted that was, I don't know. He's a 0 degrees Aries sun. What I've heard about that is that the zodiacal babies are on the cusp of rebirth. So it's very much just it's a different thing. So yeah, like, and I'm on the cusp of magic, right? I'm like, Punarvasi is like the return. So I'm always kind of like cycling and doing these like very Jupiterian type of cycles, right? But my dad is doing like, remember, esoterically Aries is ruled by Mercury, and we saw in the cipher that when we switch Mercury and Venus, Mercury being the mirror, Venus being the one with the horns, Aries to Taurus gets Venus in the 12th house. Yeah, wink, wink, wink. um, you know what I mean? But anyway, like the what was I saying? ADHD. Oh, the Mercury situation. Um, it's just like there's something blah 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 blah. Where is my mind? There's something about like just like where I do the return Jupiterian cycle type of thing, and my dad does like the mercurial cycle. So it's very interesting, like, because the 6th and the 8th on the cipher is Libra and Leo. The 7 is Virgo in the esoteric cipher. So, and Formscapes has the 6 for Jupiter and Mercury for the 8th. So it's just this why was 6 afraid of 7, 7, 8, 9 thing in a weird riddle way as well applying. So bringing it back to like what I saw just in my family, like my dad only taking us to my grandparents when it was like beneficial for something, like showing how good we were doing on our report cards, or going there to get Easter eggs because he didn't buy us any, or when we needed to collect our Christmas gifts or whatever birthday gifts our grandparents called and said they had. But he was really not wanting us to be around them, and I later realized why. um because like they kept a very polished spiritual veneer. Like all my dad's sisters are very into church and spiritual and religious, I would even go as to say. um My one aunt is a pastor, actually like ordained and everything. My other aunt is a, like we call it a sister, like a church sister. I don't know what, but she's not, um, I don't think she's ordained. I do think she kind of like is trained to a certain extent. I don't know. But I do know that about my one aunt. Um, and my other aunt, my aunt who was the youngest and who used to always take me and my sister ice skating or to Wonderland, or, you know, giving us a break from that chaotic world that was my parents whirling in the galactic center of themselves. So, anyway, she was a lawyer and then she went into properties, and like she's rich, guys. So she's the one who took me to Mind Power. She's the one who gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad, and she was also the one, because she looked a lot like my dad, I could really kind of like project onto the feminine part of her everything that I wanted my dad to understand about me. And she played that role for me, right? She played that surrogate mother role for me, in many ways. Like, she actually told me and my sister, like, we were her guinea pigs before she decided whether she was ready for children. So she sincerely invested in me. She, like, anything that I wanted to do, right? She bought me paints, she bought me beads and things to make jewelry for her. She bought me whatever color papers or things that I wanted to make designs, or like just different crafts and things that I was into, right? She always bought me like the most special gifts, very thoughtful gifts. And yeah, my Taurus placements were just living for it, right? I loved that whenever I slept over at her house, like, I could sleep so comfortably that, you know, the next day I could wake with excitement for swimming in the pool or whatever was on our itinerary for the day. She taught me the word itinerary, right? She also galvanized the term Renaissance man in my consciousness when she asked me what do I want to become, and I described so many things. She, you know, so she was like my Aditi. She was my, and her name was Desiree, right? Look at that. So literally, like, my Taurus principle, my desire principle, me knowing the finer tastes of life, all those letters that you saw in my name relating to Taurus, like the K and the A, the Kaf and the Aleph. So it's very interesting. And she has, I believe she probably has Taurus moon. She's a Cancer. She's most likely a Pushya, because she just had the most auspicious, like, she was the most beautiful. She was like, apartheid was really not as much of a hindrance to her as it was to the elder siblings, because things were kind of in that transitioning period. Like, she didn't have to like be ran out of a class because of a riot or tear gas or shots fired or whatever it was going on, right? She could, she was one of the first students like to get a bursary, you know, in this, like, from her school, like, as a colored, and the bursary that she got to study law, like, it was a very big deal. Like, it was even like in, I think, in her local newspaper or something like that. She got she was an A student, she was the top student, so I had a lot that I modeled myself after her. Like, she allowed me to have these goals and see them like as a reality, right? Like in grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, like she was really yeah, she was just like this earth for me. 4 in Sag, the horse, 6 Virgo, and Jupiter, that nourishing quality as well, with her most likely pushier qualities. sh so yeah, guys, so she was kind of like bringing out this altar within me through which I could see the Libra of myself with my moon, you know. That's why I say, like, I appreciate the tropical chart for one reason and a sidereal or mastering the zodiac chart for another reason, because it's like it shows me like where I've peered in, where it goes too deep, when it like when I back up. It's this whole dance within myself with these like placements and ideas, and just the fact that they are articulations that give me emotional language, because I am a very emotional person, and as a child I felt very cut off because of the fact that um my language, whenever I became emotional, I had this open throat, so I just like blared everything that I was feeling, and I was very quickly just like shut down. And I think that's even why maybe like now I talk so long and long and long, because I feel like I need all of this space to explain myself. So yeah, guys, um bringing it all to like just the state that I was in, the schisms that I had, the reflections of what it was gonna take to pull me out of the abyss, right? The mottos that she gave me. She literally told me I have to tell myself every day in the mirror, I am brilliant, I am bright, I am a radiant being of light. I am an outstanding peak performer. I am a dynamic life transformer. So which part of that didn't come true, if not all of it? Even to the degree that I still feel unachieved. I have done things that I'm not always proud of it, or like how I did it, or a certain part of the memory, but overall, I'm proud of what I've achieved in my life. Like in the short period of time, like I have recognized getting on a pedestal and being the best for something. So I don't need that year, you know? Um, and I would rather say I don't need it anymore, the way when I chased it, I had these ideas around like what it would mean achieving it, but like it never made me feel satisfied, because even if I can depth psychology myself and be like, oh, you were just trying to prove these and that things to your parents, so it all comes down to your relationship with your parents, or there was just some point where I feel like I was making choices from the other voice, or the other whisper, or the unheard voice, or whatever it is. And at first I thought it was just making me rebellious or angry, or things that I shouldn't feel, like things that I wanted to suppress. But it was the voice telling me to tell the truth, that this is what I see, this is what I feel, this is what I am. Even if you have a whole world of theories, and you have books and words and God said so about whatever, that's not my heart, that's not what I feel, that's not what I can, it's not my knowing. It's not your fault, And it's not my fault to stop acting like it. And I'm gonna stop acting like a victim of that also. How about that? You know? But what are these fucking words? What are we saying to each other though? Anyway. So yeah, I was probably opened up to be Obanje. You know? I probably have a coven within me. And I laugh about it because I ask not the God, not the God Beyonce can claim for her gift, or Mariah Carey. And just because I am infected by even the propaganda machine of the media, the media of it all, right? Infecting all these words coming out of my mouth. What has been dragged into me, what has been masked, what has been faked. What is the liminal space? How do I transition to clarity? How do I see clearer what is just the psychosexuality of it all? So, within myself, always having kind of like, okay, it's not like I had my mom and my dad communicating in my mind, manifesting them as a solution to what their problems were. I like separated my mom into one notion of I'm thinking about her. Even though like my dad never like went out of the picture with her, it's like I was trying to like cut her out of like the picture with him in my mind. I was trying to see what she could be separate from him, beautifully adorned, like taking care of herself. Not that woman who, you know, yeah, not that woman that I saw going through it. But like she had to go through it. And it's just so funny that today I feel like I've actually modeled behavior for her that she is now like unable to even like see who her teacher is. Because I mean, I still came in with who I was. She came in with who she was. Whatever part of that she hides in order to manifest the world of the this is me that she is manifesting, and me seeing her for like being fake, being like this Libra stallion, Scorpio stallion, being so God, she was so fucking duplicitous. Like just the way she would literally control me through her face. It was like staring at Medusa and like moving along to those things. Like the control my mom had over me. I wouldn't say it was like control, but like just like what I allowed her to mean. I.e. like, okay, you look at me this way, it's code for this, do this, do that. Even though it was all very survival, it was very, this is all we know, this is like us walking on eggshells around he who shall not be named, the Voldemort mirror of my existence. So, yeah, like he was just always trying to kill my magic, always trying to not make my mom be freed from his Svengali effect by me. And I just actually, ever since I felt like I lost the battle with him, it's like I just felt I didn't know what my purpose was anymore. Because I was growing up and I was like, I'm gonna build my mom a mansion, I'm gonna build my grandmother a mansion, all these, like Jupiter, right, spirit of the vast, had all these vast ideas of like how I'm gonna like just be what the women and children need in life. You know, even if part of that is me needing to like refine or castrate a certain element to my manhood or have the hidden hand of a restraint with the chimeric two-faced Purva Bhadrapada trine to my sun and the Vishaka Chiron split branch of it all to my Punarvasu. These, like the rose and the thorns, it's the Lakshmi, the Aditi Niriti, like me needing to learn just this, what is true mercy for a situation, because sometimes I just felt like I froze in place. I should have killed the bastard. Like we wouldn't have none of this shit to talk about now, would we? So yeah, guys, like they really fucked me up, and I might sound intelligent and aloof, but they fucked me up for years, and I was in limerence over them. I was obsessed with them. It's like I wanted to figure out the cosmic drama of it all, the Uranus Gaia of it all. Like, what's the attraction? Like, why? And then the why was my Pluto. I was the circuit breaker. I was the mirror. I was the reflector. I was the why. And to the extent that that part of what my knowing is to my holiest of holies needs to stay, I don't know if I am giving enough to you guys, because I feel like my work is unrefined and I still feel like ashamed of showing myself, and I just now am this mouth and another black screen. But anyway, it's and even the fact that like my tears literally just dried up when I composed myself. Like I hate the fact that I don't know what my emotions are in the moment that I feel it, in terms of the backdrop to all the fucking thoughts, because I don't judge the thoughts, I judge the way I feel about it. I judge whether I feel heavy or I judge whether I feel elated. And that's just my calibration system, because every time I did it with them, when I made the jokes or I just saw the symbolism to just kind of like pull the pattern into like a let's rise to dignity and return to the good moment of it, like yes, I can Aditi split and be your friend, and like I knew how to just play both my parents because both of them were in me, right? And I felt so insincere even when I was trying to be genuinely loving, or I had genuine moments of like, okay, my PTSD wasn't like triggered, so I was able to enjoy certain things. then afterwards I feel bad because I'm like, you were pulled in by like the luxury of like your dad made stuffed mushrooms and you never had those big fucking mushrooms before. Anyway, like my oscillation, guys, I'm literally like over it already, like the heaviness. And I just feel so guilty because like I switch and it's not like I don't remember, but it's just like when I want to like forget, I can forget, but I can't forget. And it always cycles back. And it is always like this Hydra Ashleisha Venus pulling me back into like tropical, even if I can find something like, oh, it's Punarvasu Venus in Sidereal. Doesn't that make you feel better? No, it doesn't. It doesn't make me feel better because it makes me feel like the world fucks people up. Whether they know it, don't know it, know they know it, and just don't do better. It's like they always want to have generations to fucking change a curse. What the fuck is that? Like, can't you be aware now? Like, can't that child cry now? It pains you now. You recognize you were wrong now. Make it right now. I think that's just like even my Saturn in the 5th house, the way I deal with children, the way I, like, there's a lot of small kids. My grandmother has many grandchildren. And my brother's child, he is like her first great grandchild. And he's the one who's always like, saying like, Kaylin. So, and his name is Cullen, right? And I always think of the fact that he had the Bethlehem star conjunction that we had a few years ago. So I love the way that even when he started like learning to speak, he like had his own language, and I could just like enjoy it for that. It's like I knew what he was saying in his baby talk, and just it was so expressive. Like he was just doing it like it was almost like bubble speak or like underwater speak or like womb speak, or I don't know what it was, but like for the first time in my consciousness, it's like I was in a space to like be open to the idea and seeing things, just like having that perspective to it, right? And that's what I love about growth and information and growing with information and stuff like that. And that's what I think like caused me a lot of like conflict and isolation from people, because I either felt like they didn't keep up with my growth, or yeah, like they were like cutting the roses in my garden. It's just, yeah, guys, it is what it is. And I just kind of like feel like even if I think of like Princess Donkey Skin, right, the decodes that we were doing, there's so much in there that I just felt like I didn't get to, because like the golden ass, the golden thread, the King Midas, the I think in one of my backdrops, I think where the brain was or something, where I just randomly screenshot stuff that's in my feed and add it to my videos. I just randomly do a bunch of screenshots, and then I like during the time that I'm either watching a video or listening to something. So that's why I was like looking back on my videos and I was like, okay, Mariah Carey features there. You've spoken about what Whitney Houston meant to your story, right? Very much. like her being like an archetype for like a woman losing her voice and finding it back, and then having this like tragic end but having this like enduring legacy also. So the identifications that I had with her just being on Oprah, being like, when they ask her about Bobby, does he know? No. But I'm sure I'll be getting a call. And then they ask, are you scared of that call? And she has this attitude like, hell no. You know? Like, I was wanting my mom to be the woman in that position. Like a stretch. And yet, today I'm like, it was never meant to be that story. It was still supposed to be this story. All of that had to happen. I had to be right here. And I don't know whether it's because I've just learned to accept things, or I just told myself a bunch of like interconnecting stories. Because obviously when the fragments of these very traumatic things flash, it's almost like you had no life in between that. Like, where was the rest of your life if these things are so prominent, right? And yet to me, like, I have, I cannot remember, like, what did I eat tonight? Yeah, my stomach literally just growled. We had fish and chips. That's what we had. And like a purple coleslaw salad with raisins and nuts and things in there. It's a new thing now, like they are very doing this health thing. We are eating all sorts of vegetables and things that we've never had before. Ever since my dad got sick, and like he's been recovering. Like he had a collapsed lung from smoking, and I smoke, and just like the trauma of that. Like, why am I doing that to myself when I can see that it's like something that could happen to me? And then I'm like, oh, but something, maybe you can just like do what Dr. Sebi said, or maybe you can like drink this sea moss, or maybe you can just like pray whatever cancer you can have from smoking. Like, why don't you just pray it away so long, like the woman you heard like talks to a cancer cell. So like every time I see the packet and it says like warning could cause cancer, like I just like do like this mental scribble over it to be like, that's a spell that is trying to go into my subconscious and like sit there and create a somatic resonance to that cognitive dissonance, because it is flipping the, like, what, you know, even like cancer, Jupiter and the sign it has cusping into Cancer, and Jupiter unrefined or uncontrolled by a draining force like Ketu would lead to like all sorts of growths in the body, like fatty tissues, growths, lymphoma, like all these types of things. I think cancer is also one of it. But then like what is smoking, and as a K2 element, and as a, like, there are spiritual ways that people smoke. I believe that. Like, I believe it's about how you sublimate the experience. And it's like they've hacked everything with like a bad connotation or a word that siphons back to like an entity that you don't know is getting energy from the fact that you are making that connection to them just via the breath of life, Saraswati moisture of you etherically connecting. Jupiter Punarvasa. So my parents told me like I cursed them. Like they literally tell me like whenever I tell them something's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Boy, so like they've literally like held my tongue against me. They've literally not allowed me to have the anger to rain down on them because it's like Jupiter has spoken. And like it's just so weird that like all these gods of war, like they fucking came through me and I had no control. It seems like I had no control. It just happened. I thought I was making choices once upon a time, but like looking back, like it feels like I had no control. So did I? Did I not? I don't know. Do you know next episode of At Pukey's Lake when we go deeper down the ripples of the psychosoma of it all?